2018 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting. The order at 7:03. In attendance are Supervisor Day, Morris, Schneider, Torres. Also in attendance are Solicitor Mark Thompson, Assistant Manager Jeff Eastburn, and Secretary Sharon Morris. And there are no members of the public available. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
An announcement, there will be an executive session after tonight's meeting to discuss potential litigation. Public comment? We don't have anybody in the public. Nancy, you want to start the first motion?
I make a motion to approve the July 18th, 2018 meeting minutes as presented by the Township Secretary.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
I read it, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I have no comments.
Anybody have any concerns about the minutes?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, John, the next is, so I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors adopt Resolution 21819 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meeting of July 18, 2018, and the June 7, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, David. Any discussion?
No.
No. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion the board approve the July treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements: general fund with disbursements and transfers of $10,103.99, the park and recreation fund with disbursements of $5,258.39, the open space fund with disbursements of $6,768.42, the capital reserve with disbursements of $41,485.47, and the highway fund with disbursements of $10,502.06, fire hydrant fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds of $1,157,966.80. Seconded by Stefan. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a comment. So, John, some of the numbers you read,
Yeah.
you didn't read exactly correct. So, is that a problem?
No.
So, we're okay. Okay.
Any comments on the treasury report?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the July zoning officers report, no motion is needed. Permits issued was 5, building inspections 41, building fees collected $809.57, nothing from open space or impact fees, recreation. Miscellaneous was 500. And there are 4 ongoing zoning issues that are being monitored. Do we have any updates on them, Jeff or Sharon? Usually Joan gives us something on that.
It's the same.
If there is anything.
It's the same ones.
It's the same one.
It's the same one, so yeah, with nothing.
Nothing new.
So, okay, I'm finished.
Okay,
Member of the planning commission.
member of planning commission will present a summary of the August 2nd, 2000 PC meeting.
So, John, I'm prepared just to give a brief summary.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah, I can do
All
that.
right, go ahead.
I was prepared. I have a meeting minutes. So we had a gentleman named Matthew Mack from Woodgate Engineering came to the meeting to talk to us about 476 Chesterville Road land development plan. And this is property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Denise. And what they're planning to do is build a second family residence with a detached garage on the property that already has a home. And so Mr. Mack wanted, this is not the final proof, it just wanted to come in, talk to the planning commission, let them know some things that he was going to be asking for in terms of waivers, and I can go through them in a second. And then, like I said, get some feedback, and then at the next PC meeting, he'll come with the final, with his presentation of his final land development plan for the PC to look at and provide comment on. Okay, so some of the kind of waivers he's looking at, it has to do with having combined the preliminary and final plan together instead of having two separate submissions. He wanted to have a waiver for financial security because it will be part of the building permit. He wanted a waiver for the developer's agreement because that will also be part of the building permit. And as I said, no final decision's been made, just a layout, what he needed. An interesting item came up at the meeting though, and that was the need for an impact fee. Because this is a property that already exists, and they want to build another building on it. And so there was a little bit of conversation, no final decisions were made, but there was a sense that it made sense that there would be an impact fee because another building was being built there. But as I said, this final decision hasn't been made, but it's an interesting thing for us to consider as we talk about these granny flats and building additional buildings on the property. What does that look like in terms of impact fees? So as I said, that's an outstanding question, but I thought it was interesting that came up. The other issue that was discussed was about sidewalks and street lighting, and the PC was able to give some feedback and say they don't believe that those would be required, just because of the nature of
The
this.
board usually waives that. That's
Right.
really the board's decision, so
Right.
we typically waive it.
And then they said that, but they said they wouldn't be pushing for it. So that's kind of where we're at. We just, like I said, it was the initial meeting. They'll be back again, and then a full review by the PC.
Yeah, the property owner didn't attend, it was just their engineer.
Correct.
And he didn't seem too upset about an impact fee.
No, Felix said we should charge more.
It seemed
Should
wobbly.
say. Yeah, it seemed pretty good. I think in the scheme of things, we're talking a couple $1,000. It was not that we should take these things lightly, but I think it seemed to make sense that there would be some kind of impact because it'd be more people, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to probably come back to the board for some discussion.
Correct, for some clarification.
Down with this particular, if I missed it, I apologize.
That's right.
Did they describe who would be residing in this building?
Yes, good question. So the owner, the owners that own it now will go to the new building, the new house and the new garage and the barn. And the people, and the house that's currently there, that's where their children will go to that.
Okay.
Yes, it's 19 acres. My guess is the reason they don't want to subdivide it is they lose the 319 tax advantage. But in reality, if you look at it, you're better off subdividing it.
That's the thing I hope people understand, because when you build a second home and it's not saleable on its own,
Could be
it's
difficult
very
to sell.
difficult to sell.
Exactly.
People need to understand that. It's, you can see the property at Hess Mill on 841. She's on and off. She's trying to sell it. She's never. I think it might be Brenda Wilkinson's, the two brick houses next to each other.
Yep.
Off and on over the years, she's trying
That's
to
been
sell it.
up for sale for a long time. She wants a good bid for it, but you're right. The issue is those properties are hard to sell because there are not many buyers that want to buy that. But that's their choice. Not sure that we...
As long as later they don't, I think the risk for us is that then, if they then want to subdivide it, that's fine, it has to be subdivided.
Yeah, but it's got to be subdivided by rules, and that's...
That's right.
That's-
They can't circumvent the rules.
No, you've got to go through, there's a whole bunch of rules about setbacks and things that they have to qualify for. I never thought it was a good idea with the property, even that one, which is pretty
No.
big.
They're hard to sell.
All
Okay.
right, let's see, the next item is the Paul Agassi's report on the Historic Commission. Nancy, it's your turn, so you could read oh, you got it.
Okay.
You could read Paul's report.
All right. He says, Mr. Chairman and Township Supervisors, the Franklin Township Historical Commission met on the evening of August 1st with Ms. Hughes, Mr. Legassi, Ms. Latimer, and Mr. Mandich present. There was no public present. The minutes from the prior meeting were approved. The main topic of old business was the Kennedy House in the Historic District, the DeFrancesco property that has suffered from demolition by neglect. The situation of the house and the township's response were reviewed and discussed, and a number of members indicated a desire to attend the court hearing if possible. Mr. Legassi noted that Karen Marshall, the county's Heritage Preservation Officer, had mentioned the possibility of having a traffic study done to see if the livability of the village might be improved. But She also noted that she did not have enough information at present to discuss the issue with the supervisors and township staff. Or maybe Mr. Lagasse, I don't know. Mr. Lagasse reported that he has no further news at this time concerning the township's historic resource atlas, which he had requested help from Ms. Marshall in preparing. He's waiting to hear back from her or those working on the atlas concerning its progress. Local talks and training opportunities were reviewed, as were talks and ideas for New London in 2018-19. 2 New London talks have already been scheduled, one on the 1918 influenza epidemic in November 2018, and another one related to the history of milling in May 2019. Finally, Mr. Lagasse reported that Liz Ranfi, a resident in Village and Appleton Road, had expressed interest in becoming involved with the Historical Commission. It's the August 14, 2018.
Yeah, Liz Randy is the woman that's got the house down there with all the traffic control signs on it.
Oh, nice. Great.
She came in here, it's very plus
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, she's walking nice.
All right, so we are down to first major order of business, and the people who are going to come here are not here. So I would suggest that we
Go to the second.
skip to the second business item, which is the bamboo ordinance. So, all right, let me get this started here. Last meeting, we asked Mark to prepare an ordinance based on some directions that we had given him, and he has prepared that ordinance. At that time, I had some concerns about one aspect of the ordinance, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And we do have the ordinance in front of us now. There were 2 major elements that we were trying to control. And the one was, and the primary one that got it even started, was the issue of bamboo planted along the roadside on the right-of-way, and the problems we have had with that, and it's particularly over Walnut Glen Road, but others. It typically falls down in the wintertime, freezes the road. We've had a really difficult time cleaning that up. So stuff grows about 30 foot tall, so we had assumed 40-foot setback would get it put far enough back from the right-of-way, from the edge of the road, that we wouldn't have an issue. So that was the basis for the first part of the ordinance. It's a traffic safety issue primarily. And then secondly, there are some significant costs that have been borne by the township because of the bamboo kind of close to the road. Since then, driving around the townships, there's a lot of bamboo out there. Especially if you go over on Chesterville Road heading over toward the Landenberg store on the right-hand side. It must be like solid bamboo from one end of that road to the other. That's not in our township, but there's still lots of it in our township.
I was just saying to Don, it's ironic, but today on Rose Hill Road, there was a whole flat bed trailer full of it. They were trying to cut it out and get rid of it. So people are starting to realize that it's a real problem.
If you can mow it, then that's the way to do it, but in some places it's not very mowable, not easily mowable. I mean, Jim's got equipment that would reach out from the edge of the road and mow it, but most people don't have something that would do that. So that part of the ordinance, from my perspective, is fine. I'd be willing to vote yes on it. The second part of the ordinance was directed toward controlling the growth of bamboo up on the properties between property owners. I'm not in favor of that part of the ordinance for lots of reasons. First off, it's kind of an overstep for me to regulate something like that on property. I think that really belongs to the property owners. And then that puts the township in the middle of these discussions among owners. And we've been involved in a number of those over the years, and Sharon will tell you that. I mean, some are with chickens and setbacks, abilities and things. And what you find out a lot of times when you get involved in these neighbor disputes about an issue, that it isn't the issue. They don't like each other for some other reason, and they're just using the township to club each other. So I've had a good bit of experience with that, so I'm not anxious to extend that. That's really my thought process. I'm not an over-regulator, it just seems to be an overstep from my standpoint, so I like the part about, and would approve the part, but the other I would not. But we have a 5-member board, so we're the first board here, so.
John, the first question I had with regards to if we decide to go with the revision, and I'm not committing one way or the other, the term right-of-way, what is the typical right-of-way?
It's typically 32 feet wide, 16 feet from the center, so we're going to go further than that.
But
So,
okay, but I'm just wondering.
there's some language issues. All I did was put language in here so I could convey the idea.
Because right-of-way is less than 40 feet.
Yes.
So, do we need to put a notation at the top that says, in the future of this document, the right-of-way refers to 40 feet, as opposed to the typical right-of-way?
That's kind of up to our solicitor to come up with
Oh, we
come up
can't,
with
we
the right
can't
kind of
go with 40
language.
feet, so, because the bamboo can be that
The reason
long,
we
not
can't-
supposed to right away.
Right.
I got 40 feet from the edge of the pavement.
Right, but then it also is corrected here with the terms right-of-way. Now, the term, in the event that the bamboo owner does not remove the bamboo from the township right-of-way, now, right-of-way is different than 40 feet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I just marked this thing to convey an idea. It wasn't
Oh, I know.
necessarily the language that.
So we just need to add a point that says, the 40 feet, you know, right-of-way refers to 40 feet.
In this-
Well, we were talking about like 30 feet, 40 feet, what works best, and if we want to make it the right of way,
I like that.
assuming the fact that the right of way can be different for different roads, it could be 60 feet, it could be 32 feet, some older roads, it may be even less, so.
Yeah, that's why I would state a number.
I would just say 40 feet.
Well, does it make sense? Because if right away can change, why wouldn't we actually state a number?
Right away relative to bamboo, the right of way for relative to other items is typically less.
Right, so this says 40 feet from the edge of pavement, so it's significantly more than the right of way.
That's right.
Okay, so I think Stefan's point, and probably mine too, is that where you then say, in the event the bamboo owner does not remove the bamboo from the township right-of-way, is someone just going to say, well, your right-of-way is 16 feet, so that's what we did? And
Well, we can clarify
That's-
that.
I think
Once we
that's the
assume, once we have an understanding of what we
Yeah.
want to see that setback is, then we'll make it consistent throughout the ordinance. I think that we didn't, we discussed it, but we didn't come to any
The
decision.
reason for the 40 feet is that the stuff typically grows about 30
Right,
feet high,
right.
so that would give us a little buffer if it falls down. We just saw some humongous stands of bamboo down there on Peacedale Road. We were looking at this other property a little while ago. Yeah, there were some,
A wall of
it
bamboo.
was an impenetrable environment. You couldn't even see light through it.
So you can see it.
Couldn't see light through it.
Now,
Oh, it's like a wall, it's a Chinese
Right on the
wall.
point down there where Peacedale and Franklin come there, it's just get out of your car and take a look at it. You cannot
You
see
can't
light
see
through it.
Wow.
you couldn't get through it if you tried.
So this supports, John, everything you're saying supports my position, and I'm hoping other people in the board's position, that we should help protect the poor property owner who has a neighbor who is growing bamboo and is not keeping it under control. So we, as a township, want to protect our right of way. We want to protect, it's a safety issue, right?
It's a
for
public
traffic.
interest.
Right, and I
absolutely.
totally
We
get
have
that.
an obligation to do that.
And we're not talking grass here, we're not talking something that's easily controlled, we're talking something that's very difficult to control. And not that I want us to become police, Jeff, you're good enough to do, I don't need your policing, but if a neighbor comes in and says, look, my neighbor's growing bamboo, it's coming into my property, and it's gonna hit the right of way, or it's gonna come into my, yeah, I think I wanna have an ordinance so we can point to and say, fine, we can send a letter to the neighbor and say, you have to remove that, you've gotta back it off, because the neighbor's stuck. And these things grow at an unbelievable rate, and then they're gonna have to incur the cost.
I would just say, I agree with Donna. I think we have lots of ordinances that are intended to create a peaceful and harmonious community, including noise ordinances, all kinds of ordinances. So I don't, I'm not an over-regulator, but I think this is a really troublesome weed, and I would like to see neighbors fighting over it. I would be furious if my neighbor was growing it and it was coming out of my yard and I had no recourse.
I agree, and I would even add that I would be furious if my neighbor put it right on the property line, and even if it didn't interfere with my property, there's these bamboo that's 30 feet tall, and my property value has been hurt because of that. And I know it's not our job to worry about property values, but all I know is I've lived through 12 years and my house was worth less than it was 12 years ago. And I see other townships doing, further east doing a lot better than we are.
Yeah.
So again, I like the idea of being able to do what you want, but at the same time, how would I feel if my neighbor and I, we all, for the most part, we all live in, fairly decent sized properties, but how would I feel if my neighbor started putting bamboo right next door? There are other alternatives. It's not like there's not an alternative. You could put evergreens or something
A
else.
privacy fence would be better, right? Because it's not going to move. Yeah.
So,
we could vote on it when the part time's right, but I just have it just a different, I don't normally disagree with John, where you should.
we have a diverse board.
Yeah, we do, and you're very good about allowing us to express our opinions. But in this case, I like the way it was written, the clean sheet that you gave us.
Right, so it was the prohibition was that it was not permitted to encroach or grow on any adjoining or neighboring property, and that would be township property as well, it says including all
Exactly.
public
We
property.
don't want it on our property either.
Right, so then with the issue being that if you do as a neighbor with it encroaching, then they're gonna come to the township and say, you've got an ordinance that says, you're not permitted, my neighbor's not permitted to do this, we want you to enforce it. And then we would
Write the letter.
we would have to be enforcing it against them, yeah.
And then if they need to go to court or whatever, then at least they have a leg to stand on to say, well, this is against the township.
You have to enforce it now. You put it in the ordinance, you have to enforce it.
Well, we have a mechanism here, right? Violations and remedies, we have the letter, they have a certain amount of time, they don't come, they don't do what they have to do, then we pay for it, then we charge the,
That would be if there was a complaint. I don't
Yeah, we're not
necessarily
looking for it.
think we need to
Right.
go marching around.
Right,
for
right.
bamboo.
Yeah, it's not like everybody in the township has bamboo.
That's true.
There's a few spots, so it's not gonna be a major issue. It will be somewhere down the road, someone's gonna have a complaint.
I find most of the bamboo is probably on the areas close to the road anyway.
anyways, right?
As opposed to using it as a barrier between your neighbor. I know there are some, there's that one where that's in the township, the one that we should talk about
That's what we're
last
going to
time.
talk about. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Just,
Be aware that you're taking on some enforcement here.
I think that's our job.
Yeah, I mean,
That's part of our job.
we have to pick and choose, but to me, this seems like a sensible one to take on.
It's very small.
I talked to someone I know quite well in Pennsbury Township, and he's like, no, we have a bamboo ordinance that does not allow bamboo. You cannot plant bamboo.
Well, we
Well, that was- we took that out, yeah.
Honestly, I believe that if people are going to plant it, it needs to be in a container. But I realize that's not
Yeah, I won't-
agreeing with
I
this
won't cross
group,
that road.
so,
I will
okay.
go that far.
But at the very least, there's a reason these ordinances come up, as we know.
So what happens now?
So we're in, you're in favor of the ordinance as it's written?
I am.
Okay.
I do want to make a point, and I'm actually fine with this. The way it's written, we only talk about removal from township property, and I'm fine without having to explicitly say removal from a neighbor's property, because I think it's covered. You don't need to call it out, it's covered
It's
by the
definitely
process.
covered in 4B.
It's 4B.
Right, so I'm fine, I'm fine with it as written, except I think, Stefan, you would ask for something to be clarified.
One thing we're looking for, do we want it just within, outside the right of way? Do we want it a certain distance from the carway on the road?
The changes that we have, the copy here uses the word right away.
Yeah, that was just my
Right.
comments, and I was trying to just convey a message, not specific legal language.
Oh, sure, yeah, and I realize that. But I just want to make sure that if the word right away or something like that is in the document, the original document itself, which I can't see it here,
It needs to be defined.
it needs to be defined at the beginning.
It's 40 feet. 40 feet, that's all.
40 feet from the edge of the road. is what you want.
That's what you would want to have.
Yeah,
we want-
How would you define
Okay.
the term? It's 40 feet from the edge of the road. The stuff grows it.
Well, because there's different rights of way,
That's
we'll
the
just have to at least say this.
Supersedes
If
other
it's
rights.
simpler to say just property, then it's correct as is, which is maybe the simpler way to go.
So, Mark, when you're ready, there's just a couple other editorial ones that you have to catch.
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so it's on the second page, at the bottom, township,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's that. And then, third page, under notice of violation C, township is another one where it's just split up.
Catch.
I don't even see that one.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you see 10.3 of
Yep, yep.
violation and remedies? Okay. And there may be others, those are the ones, those are the ones. Stephen, you're usually pretty good at this.
Yes, oh, I did see it.
Yeah.
One question I have on pre-existing bamboo.
There's a lot of it, let me tell you that.
This is the fun stuff that we get to discuss.
So let's say I have bamboo in my yard. It's right on the property line. I can keep it?
No, not by the way.
Well,
it's
if your
written.
neighbor complains, you need to cut off 10 feet of it.
Right, okay.
I'm sure if your neighbor doesn't complain, then I wouldn't, you might not do anything.
But just like, no, I don't know how, we'll have to advertise this, but just like if the right of way, if it's in the right of way, 40 feet, they gotta cut it back.
Okay, so 3B is still in force, okay.
Yeah, we gotta cut it back, because, I mean, the right of way, we're having it fall all over the roads in the wintertime.
Sure.
It's a nature mess.
I think it was like $1,700, Joan said. We
4,200.
Well, do we want to keep B in there, the 10 feet from the adjoining
Yeah,
property?
Yes,
That's
yes.
what they want.
Okay.
Yeah. Not, we don't want 40 feet, 10 feet. is-
Well, 40 feet from our township road.
Right,
40
and
feet on the township right away or property.
And 10 feet on property.
Anything else. Okay.
Here's the motion.
do you want me to do the motion? Okay. I make a motion that the board authorize the solicitor to advertise the bamboo ordinance regarding the planting and maintenance of bamboo for enactment at a future meeting.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
So
Yeah, you want to say what you thought.
are we back to what Mark provided us?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there- Other than typographical?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the definitions?
There's no other material changes?
And the definitions?
I might want to, since we've clarified that we wanted at least 40 feet from the cartway, so to speak, and I might want to make sure that that's consistent, because we are referring to rights of way. That's all, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Do you want me to state that in the motion, David? or-
No, you don't.
No, I just wanted to make sure that, because we had several things to talk about, just to make sure we were back
Are
to
you okay? I didn't even, I'm sorry. Are you,
What?
are you okay with what we're doing?
If I have a problem, you'll do it.
Okay, good.
You never have to ask me.
I know, I just
I
have a
will jump
tendency.
in both feet if
Okay, great.
if I have a comment.
Okay, so, do we vote on this motion?
I don't believe we voted. We have a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy seconded
Yes.
it.
Yeah, so motion's on,
So we're at the discussion point, and I have no further discussion. I think it's that.
no further discussion.
Anybody else with discussion? Okay, great, now we got it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Nay.
Okay, great, thanks, so 4 to 1. That was a good discussion, thank you.
Okay, we're down to 117 Eastdale Road. I assume you folks are here to talk about.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you say who your names are?
yes, my name's Elizabeth Boyle.
Okay.
We're siblings.
Boyle, B-O-Y.
B-O-Y-L.
Your
Yes.
mother's the owner, right?
My mom is the owner,
Okay.
yes. My mom couldn't be here today,
Okay.
so she sent us.
Okay,
My
well, you're
mom
a
is
listener.
good lady.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you celebrate when you get to the 80s, but you know.
Beats the alternative, right?
Well, this is true. So, yeah, so my mom sent us out. We had, my dad actually acquired this property in 1977. And always, you know, my dad built him a lot over there. And he built all along Eastdale Road. My grandparents lived there. And Kathleen Drive is named for my mom. You know, Liz Ann Lean is named for me. My name's Elizabeth, but I go by Liz Ann. And so my dad held these lots because his retirement. And then we just found out pretty recently, I think, that it's not a buildable lot. The, you know, I'm no.
The perk test wasn't coming up.
Right.
It was, when I used to play on the lot as a kid, 30 years ago, it was a relatively dry lot, but it has become more wet as more water has been diverted onto it.
Right, it's got a storm drain. It was just enlarged recently. In fact, when we went out to see, my father died in May. And so we came out to see the property and, you know, to meet with a couple of real estate agents to talk about putting it on the market. Because, you know, again, my mom is kind of on a really fixed income, and so we needed the money. And when we went out to look at it, we noticed that the orange cones and everything were still there. So they had just enlarged that drain. Apparently there was always a drain there, but it was
We
small.
replaced the pipe. There was a metal pipe in there, and we've had a program in the township that eventually replaced all the metal pipes. So the waterway and the pipe has been there, although the pipe and head wall are new now.
Okay. So, but at any rate, my mom, you know, my mother, I think my mom's probably talked to some of you about it. She gave me a whole little rundown today. But I guess that, you know, we're asking if the county would be interested, or the township would be interested in purchasing the lot for, you know, open space. I mean, my mom's, you know, she realizes she's not going to get what she thought she was going to get originally. The agent that we spoke to said that he sold lots that were, you know, not buildable, and they had an engineer come in and do all this stuff, and then it became a buildable lot. So he said, you know, I may be able to sell it for $25,000 with, you know, somebody's going to come in and bring in engineers, and I guess, you know, I
Put it in a different kind of septic
yeah,
system.
I've read all about septic systems.
Special septic system and
Right,
all the other things you might need to fit in.
exactly.
What indication do you have, technical indication that it will not support a septic system?
No perk.
Any-
The perk test.
Have they actually tested it?
Yeah, they did a perk
And had it
test.
never been perked before?
I'm not sure.
I believe it had,
So somebody actually did a qualified perk test.
Chris,
Yes.
was the guy's
This
name, Christian. Yeah.
So you had a contractor do that?
Yes.
Mhm.
That was 6 months ago, maybe?
Yes.
Something like that.
Okay, so he did the perk test with the holes, and he dug the ditch, and
Right.
the town, and the county was down to observe that?
Yes, the health department was there that day. Yes.
Okay. That was
And
a test.
originally, I think Crossan was, Ken Crossan.
Oh, Ken Crossan did it?
He did it way back when, and he knew my dad, and he
Yeah, Ken
said,
Crossan's is a engineer in this township,
Yeah.
has a lot of work for us.
he came out and he said to me, in fact, he called my dad, and my mother has spoken to him recently, and he said, when I did the original survey on that, which was admittedly back in the late 70s, he said that lot was a buildable lot, and, you know, so, and again, you know, he said, you know, oh yeah, I knew your dad, and my mom said, oh, you know, I mean, my mother's been on the phone with her. She ran through the list today. She's been
Now,
on the phone
the
with 20
contractor that did the test for you, did he propose any other kind of waste disposal system versus in lieu of a conventional?
Yeah, he was
primary treatment?
talking about that. He was saying that it would be, it's not an unbuildable lot. It's a problematic lot to build on.
Right. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, again, my mom's 80 years old, and, you know, she's trying to sell a property in New Jersey as well, because, you know, she just can't afford to keep everything. And, you know, it is what it is. And she said to me, I just don't know if I can deal with, like, you know, real estate, and, you know, all the attending, you know, my brother and I both have kids and full-time jobs.
So this contractor did indicate that the lot is buildable with a non-conventional system.
That's what he told me verbally, you know, like just when I was out there, he's like, you can look into putting a
There's
surface
various
system.
systems, there's sand mounds, and then there's
Yeah.
even a stream discharge system we can get into.
I think he was talking about sand mound.
Sand mound, but Jeff, we were talking to
Stream
Quinn today,
discharge.
you can do stream discharge, so there are other configurations that you can get approved, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that, and he was saying that with the cost of it, it would be, you know, it severely affects the value of the home.
Right. And my mom does not have, my mom does not have money to do all of that.
I'm generally the open space advocate, but in this case, I don't know that it's something that the community would get. You know, we have to look at the investment of money that we spend is everyone's money. In general, what the open space criteria are, first of all, we generally look at 10 acres or more, just because that has a bigger impact. And then we need to find money from all different places. We don't pay for it. Sometimes we pay for a part of it, but there's also other ways it's paid for by the state and county. In my view, I'm not sure that the community would benefit from putting this into open space. So I'm not sure everyone's tax dollars, this is just my opinion, would be really, I don't know that everyone's tax dollars would be best spent on this. I really feel for your mom and the situation that she's in.
Nancy, what do you think about Brandon Line Conservation or contacting Chester County on behalf of our friends here? Just, do you think they would be, I can understand why we wouldn't have an interest, but do you
They like to see adjoining.
They always want
They
you to
don't
be-
like kind of just, things that are.
The county or
interesting.
the Brandon one won't buy it straight out.
No.
They want the town, because they want somebody to maintain it. We already own some, let's say, undesirable properties already we maintain, so.
Well, those are properties along a creek that have trails that connect different areas. So in many ways, they are desirable to the community. I don't know that trails would make sense here. I just don't know that there would be a benefit to the community.
Is there open space on Peaceville Road and some,
Natural
It's pretty
lands
far away, but
purchase
it's on-
that. It's a ways down, yeah.
The sound,
And that's, I think, like 100 acres.
the Sand Mountain system can cost $20,000. It can cost 3 times the cost of a traditional system. I mean, have you thought about the idea of asking a price with the full disclosure of this property will work with a appropriate system, and as such, you know, we're going to sell the lot as is at a much reduced price, or?
well, that's what we spoke to, I think I should find that maybe. John Crislip, he's in Kennett, he's with Beardenburg, and we did talk to him about, you know, putting it on the market at, he suggested 25,000. And, you know, because he said if it was a fully booked, I mean, it's 2.2 acres, it's
Yeah.
not tiny, you know. And ironically, my father held that lot because it was the biggest lot that he owned. And he figured, you know, like that's gonna be the one to kind of, you know.
One strategy is you could engage an engineer for a fee to develop a plan for a system, and then you would sell it with a bona fide plan. That would take the uncertainty out of it for a buyer. It's just a suggestion, not a.
Yeah. I honestly, I mean, my mother doesn't have, you know, a couple $1,000s for it. She just doesn't. And nor do I, or I'd be, you know, I'd write that check tomorrow, but I don't, you know. So I think that that's kind of where we were at.
Perhaps it would make sense to try to sell it and see what happens. I mean, if you could, you know, maybe you could sell it for 25,000, and that would.
Well, somebody would buy it probably contingent upon an engineered system developed.
You think you need that first?
I'm thinking if you had at least an indication from an engineer of what kind of system would work on there, a certified indication, something with his PE stamp on it, that would indicate to a potential buyer that that system will work, not it might work, it will work. Then you've got a solid, you know, then they're buying something they can use.
And it's better, I mean, even if the township was interested, the most we've gotten for, no disrespect, but more, like Nancy was saying, properties that would be a larger piece or more beneficial towards the community. all in with the various sources of financing from Chester County Brandywine Conservation is about, what, $5,000 an acre?
Yeah.
So 5,000 times 2.2, the most you could get all in would be 11,000.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, you may be better off trying to figure how to sell a lot.
I'm sorry, I know that it's, but does anyone have a different view?
Nancy, I agree with you. I just don't think that the township would have any value in owning the land. I
You don't have
understand
money
your-
anyways,
I
there's no
understand your
extra money.
dilemma, but it wouldn't provide the kind of benefit that we would get from a typical open space property. We already have
You have quite a
one
bit.
right now. We got the Goodwin thing. It's a real albatross, quite frankly. We got a
Yeah.
piece of property that we're having a tough time maintaining. So this would not be as bad as Goodwin, but it'd be in that category. We'd have to maintain it for no value, for no benefit to us, so.
It's important to always think about, you know, how would our residents feel about, you know, 25,000, whatever you're looking at is a lot of money. And, you know, we try to look at what's best for everybody. And
It's an important
sometimes
point.
we succeed, sometimes we fail, but that's our goal.
It's an important point. We're not spending our money. It's the township's money, public money, but everybody lives in the township, so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Right now, I don't see us changing that position about buying it. I think that if you talk to a realtor and see if you can get an engineer to give you a certification that a certain system would work, guaranteed,
Right.
then a buyer could say, okay, this is what that system cost, and then the land has this much value.
Right.
Because right now, you can't define a value, nobody will buy it unknown, so
Yeah.
you have to take the uncertainty out of it for the buyer.
Well, as that developer guy.
Maybe.
He might.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I know you came a long way too.
Yeah, you did.
Ugh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wish your mother luck,
Thanks.
and we appreciate all they've done for the community.
All right, be careful driving back, it's a long ride back.
Yeah,
Take care.
thanks.
All right. All right, so that wasn't,
Take some of this.
they weren't very pressing on the issue, but I think,
Doesn't matter, we still have the answer, we still.
I know, but if they were going to engage in some litigation or something, then,
Oh, right. They could sue us for not buying the
well,
land.
look, you can be sued for anything,
Oh,
whether it's
that's
valid or not. You can-
That's why Mark is a lifetime
Well, there was
job.
some, you could, the township's responsible for ensuring that everyone has the ability to dispose of sewage, so there could be some
Yeah, if it was a
complaints
house
in
built on it.
the DEP or something like that. You
Joan,
know.
I think it was helpful that Joan or Sharon or Jeff, someone showed the plan from 1977 that showed water flowing through it. So it's always been a wet lot, I'm sure.
That drainage has always gone through that lot.
Now, maybe rules have changed, but that's life, you know, we're not.
But it sounds like the most thorough investigation hasn't been done as to whether or not.
I don't think that I wonder what they actually did here. But if they would get an engineer to design a system, of course it costs them money because you're buying an
That's it,
engineer.
they don't want to spend money, which I
Well,
understand.
could you do that a contingency? Like say, we will go to settlement, you can do all your due diligence up until settlement and figure out what the perk, what type of system it needs. But that cost is up to you.
Well, I don't think you'll get a buyer then. I think you gotta,
Yeah.
I think you gotta put the money up first and then get the best price you can for the property. And whatever you get for the property less the engineering is what the value you're gonna get out of it.
Is this the property that is going up for sheriff's sale next year?
Yeah, it's on the sheriff's sale list. But there's no bank involved, so I'm not sure who would actually buy it.
Steph, you made a great point, you know, people, when you put land in ag easement, ag preservation, you're giving up part of its value right away, preservation, so you're right. It's
They don't want an
$5,000
easement, they want somebody to outright buy it.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted them to realize that at most, for the best properties,
Yeah.
all in is $5,000.
That was an important,
And that goal is usually to avoid the building of multiple houses. They'd be lucky to get one house built on there, so that's not, something that I think the community would not be that worried about one more house. No. Okay.
So,
All right.
we shut it down, or?
I don't think we have anything more here, other than if we want to talk about something else in the executive session.
Well, I definitely will talk about something else.
Okay, all right, so I think we're done with this meeting.
Okay.
No, wait, you gotta ask if there's any public comment.
Is there any public comment?
Nobody else lives in the community but us, so.
I second that.
Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 7:50.
That's a record.